of my video journal on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook Live. So come on in, kings and queens, as we get ready for another conversation. If you are new to the conversation, we want to thank you for joining us. And if you are coming back to the conversation, we want to say welcome back. Today, we're going to talk about the updates in the Breonna Taylor case. The good news is the city of Louisville has awarded Breonna Taylor's family $12 million in the wrongful death lawsuit. And that is the largest civil settlement amount for anyone against the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department. And if anyone knows the case, they know that Breonna Taylor's family deserves the money. So what I have questions about and what we'll get into is the Attorney General, Daniel J. Cameron. I'm going to try to share his picture with you. For some reason, it's not allowing me to share. Guess I'm trying to do too much. But at any rate, we will, all this time, since Daniel J. Cameron, the Attorney General of Kentucky, since he was appointed, he appointed himself as the special prosecutor in the Breonna Taylor case. He claims since April that he has been conducting a thorough investigation all this time. But I don't think he's been doing that. And we'll get back to Daniel J. Cameron. We're going to put a pin in that. But for now, we're going to talk about the case just to review. 99% of us know about the Breonna Taylor case. But for that 1%, don't know where you've been, but here's just a recap. The police officers with the Louisville Police Department, they lied to a judge about the evidence to get a no-knock warrant to enter Breonna Taylor's residence. The no-knock warrant was not for Breonna Taylor. She was not the target. The target was her ex-boyfriend. Now, her ex-boyfriend had been arrested already earlier that same evening in another residence. So there was really no need for the police department, the police officers, to do the no-knock warrant at Taylor's residence, but they did it anyway. So they have the no-knock warrant. They go to the apartment complex. The police claim that they announced themselves as cops. Neighbors said they didn't. Also, Taylor's boyfriend, who was in the residence with her at the time, claimed nobody said that nobody announced themselves as the cops. So the neighbors called police. Breonna Taylor's boyfriend called police to say, police, please come, somebody's breaking in. In the meantime, Kenny Walker is the boyfriend's name, Kenneth Walker. He had a license to carry a weapon. He was legally in possession of a weapon. It was within his right to protect himself and Breonna, so he did. As the people started to come through the door, he shot at them. Now, because he didn't know they were police, now the police start shooting into the apartment. There was another police officer stationed outside of Breonna Taylor's home who started blindly shooting into the apartment. And his bullets were found not only in Breonna's residence, but in the neighbor's residence where other innocent people could have been killed. So during this time, Breonna's boyfriend, Kenneth Taylor, called her mother to say, something's happened, you need to come over here. So now police they arrest Kenneth Walker, charge him with attempted murder of cops, even though the cops never said they were cops to begin with. They take him out and arrest him, charge him with attempted murder while Breonna lays dying on the floor. Nobody ever attempted to give her medical assistance. And that is why her family deserves the $12 million. So now we're all caught up. Now, if that's not egregious enough, when Breonna's mother got there, her name is Tamika Palmer, when Miss Palmer arrived on the scene of where her daughter's apartment complex is, she was told by police to go to the hospital because her daughter was on the way to the hospital. The police gave her the runaround. They knew good and well her daughter was not on the way to the hospital. Miss Palmer said that she's waited about an hour at the hospital waiting for her daughter to arrive. When she didn't arrive, she goes back to the location, to the scene, and then that's when the second egregious act started. When police officers, according to Miss Palmer, started to ask her questions about if she knew about any domestic violence between her daughter Breonna and her boyfriend Kenneth Walker, in an effort to get her to make some type of statement about some domestic violence that she might have known. She told them, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. She said she didn't know anything about that. So at that point, it's clear to me, and should be to everyone else, that police were trying to set up the lie, the cover up, and try to blame Breonna's boyfriend for her death. So that's why, of all that evidence that I just said, I don't know why it would be taking Attorney General Daniel Cameron so long to file charges. Since March, he has claimed that he has been doing an investigation. Since then, the only thing that has happened is that the police officer who was standing outside and shooting blindly inside, he has been fired from the police department. The other two police officers are still getting paid by the police department. They're still on the payroll, probably still committing legalized genocide against Black people in America. Now, let's go ahead and tell you again who these people are. So the officer who was injured was Sergeant Jonathan Mattingly. That's the one that the boyfriend shot on the way in the door. Detective Miles Cosgrove was the other officer, and the officer who was fired is Officer Brett Hankinson, who has been fired, and that's the only thing that has happened. So if anything, we demand that the criminal justice system hold police officers, bully, liar, killer cops accountable the same way they would hold you and me accountable if we committed a crime, the same way they were swift to charge Kenneth Walker, her boyfriend, with attempted murder minutes later, the same as when protesters showed up to Daniel Cameron's house to protest because there have been no charges. They put 87 people in jail, charging them with trespassing. They were swift to do that. But months later, Daniel J. Cameron has failed to charge anyone with a crime, negligent homicide at the least, murder at best. That's what we want. Now, Cameron is afraid to file those charges against these police officers because he has been put into office by the Fraternal Order of Police. In fact, if you go back and look, and I'm going to put his name in here so you will know how to spell it, Attorney General Daniel J. Cameron. And because I am doing a TriCast, I might not be able to see your comments, but you can always go back and look and rewind and see the comments if you like. Attorney General Daniel Cameron. And I'm going to try to share his photo. Let me see if I can do that. For some reason, okay, that's the last time I'm going to try. Okay. For some reason, it's not allowing me to share. But the reason, again, that Daniel Cameron has not filed charges is not because there's not enough evidence to file charges. The reason why he has not filed charges is because the Fraternal Order of Police helped to get him elected to the Attorney General position. In fact, during his acceptance speech last year, Daniel Cameron thanked the Fraternal Order of Police. He thanked the other law enforcement agencies that helped him to get elected. They got that man in their back pocket. So he is afraid to file charges. Any other attorney general in the country who had the evidence that we know, let alone what we don't know, against these police officers would have had the guts to file charges by now. Daniel J. Cameron has no guts. He is not fit for the fight. He should not be attorney general, but he is. But he's not going to press charges. And that's just based off of what I know so far. And so here's what I've also realized. I looked up, how do you file charges? How are charges filed in the state of Kentucky for a felonious offense? The person has to file charges, or the police have to file charges, and they take it before the prosecutor, and based on the evidence, the prosecutor will file charges or not. He will indict or not indict. So here's what's happening. Because the police are the ones who are in question, of course, they're not going to file charges against themselves. And so the attorneys for Breonna Taylor's family have put forth the request to file charges against the police officers. Then it becomes a question of, is there enough evidence to file charges? So all this time, Dan Cameron has been claiming that he's been doing a thorough investigation, when really all he's been doing is stalling for time. He thought he was going to be able to present him or appoint himself as special prosecutor, and then he was gonna just let it die down, the prosecution die down, sweep it under the rug. But what happened? The video of the modern day lynching of George Floyd, that's what happened. And worldwide protests, that's what happened. Because remember, Breonna's death happened in March. George Floyd's death happened in May. So for more than 2 months, the only people who really knew and were paying attention to the Breonna Taylor case lived in and around Louisville. But now with the George Floyd murder video being worldwide news, that brought attention to a lot of other legalized genocide of Black people around the country, including the Breonna Taylor case. Now, Dan Cameron realized, well, I'm not going to be able to sweep this under the rug and just let it die. So what am I going to do? Well, he's been dragging it out, and normally in this instance, the prosecutor would bring charges. But because he doesn't have the guts to do that, he has now passed this case to a grand jury, and he supposedly is going to let the grand jury make the decision whether or not to indict the police officers. In the meantime, people have been showing up all over the country and showing up every other day in Louisville, protesting downtown, going in front of Dan Cameron's house. And he's got plenty of time. Dan Cameron got plenty of time to get engaged. He's got married. He's got plenty of time to thank the Fraternal Order of Police and be up under them. But when it comes to doing his job and making and standing up for what is right and charging these police officers, he has failed to do that. So now he has passed the case to a grand jury, which is, now let's go back. The I've already said that the $12 million settlement is a good thing. But normally what happens in civil cases and criminal cases is that the criminal case is tried and adjudicated first. And then after that, the civil case goes to court. But now it's been done in reverse. And now what's probably going to happen is the grand jury is going to think that it's going to be too much justice. If that's a thing, they're going to think it's too much justice for her family to get $12 million and the police officers to be charged criminally. That's what they're going to be thinking. Add to that the fact that Dan Cameron is the prosecutor who's going to be presenting the evidence to the grand jury. And based off of how he presents it is really going to determine whether the grand jury decides to indict or not to indict. Well, what do you think is going to happen? Here's what I think is going to happen. Because if Dan Cameron wanted to press charges or wanted to indict them from the beginning, he would have done it already. So what he plans to do is present a weak ass case to the grand jury, or at best present a case that says, well, the family already has gotten $12 million. So it's not as important now for the police officers to be charged. That's how I feel he's going to present it, because he wants them to get him out of what he should do. That's why he passed it to the grand jury, so they can make the decision to hopefully, and what I want to happen and what we think should happen and justifiably should happen is that they should be charged with murder. But what Dan Cameron is hoping will happen is he's going to present it to the grand jury in such a way that they decide not to indict. I know that, and the people who run the city of Louisville know that, because they've already boarded up all the federal buildings in the city all this week. There's no court cases going to be held. The courthouse is being boarded up in anticipation of the results of the grand jury's decision, which is probably going to be not to indict. So that's why it's important for us to stay up on what's going on in Louisville, and to try to hold Dan Cameron and those police officers accountable, even though her family has been awarded the $12 million civil settlement. Her mother and Breonna Taylor's mother and the family is adamant that they still want criminal justice to take place in her death. So what should you do? You should call the Dan Cameron's office, the Attorney General's office, and you should make it be known that just because they got the money doesn't mean that we are going to allow these police officers to get away with murder. In that case and other cases around the country, because it's not just about this one case in Breonna Taylor. She is just a symbol of what being Black in America is all about. And when it comes to the criminal justice system, and we demand that legalized genocide of Black people in America come to an end. And so if you want to know more about the things that I care about, you can go to the written version of my journal. It's at eurweb.com. And I normally post. Be sure to like and subscribe to my journal. I normally post on Sunday evenings, and tonight was a little late, but that's why it's recorded, so you can look at it when you get to it. And that's it. So to find out more about the things that I care about, go to the written version of my journal. That's at eurweb.com. Thanks and have a super day. And I'm going to work on sharing my screen.